Hi, my name is Monica Kretschmer, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Universal Women's Network, Woman of Inspiration Awards, and this is the Woman of Inspiration podcast, where we speak with women who lead, inspire, and motivate. Now, today, I have a very special guest who I met in person not too long ago in a little town in Warren, Ohio, where I was overwhelmed by her art and presence. And we did have some behind the scene um, just bits of interviews, but I said this one is warranted for a full-blown podcast. So it's my pleasure to welcome our today's guest, who is one of the most influential contemporary of our time artists, Carole A. Feuerman. She is a pioneer of super-realism whose works have been captivating audiences worldwide. Known for her super realistic sculptures, Carole's art explores the human body not just as a subject, but as a voice, telling stories of memory, identity, resilience, and the battles we fight within. I had the pleasure meeting Carole in Warren, Ohio at the opening of the Rockefeller art exhibit, where she unveiled justice alongside her iconic swimmers. It was not only a high creating dialogue about humanity, strength, and the female form, but it was one that I will truly remember forever. And I am excited to share a little bit more about Carole's latest exhibition, which is on right now in none other than Rome in Italy. This marks her first anthology in Italy, showcasing at the historic Palazzo Bonatera in Rome, and you can sneak it up until September 21st of 2025. Carole's journey spans decades, with her works exhibited in prestigious museums, galleries, public spaces around the world. Her art bridges classical craftsmanship and contemporary dialogue, elevating the female form and not just the female form. We'll get Carole to talk about that in our podcast, reminding us why celebrating women is not only important, but essential. So, welcome, Carole, to the Woman of Inspiration podcast.
Hi.
So, Carole, that was a long interview. And like I said, I mean, you have been at art for a long time. Your work is recognized globally and has been showcased in some of the most prestigious places in the world. And now, as we speak, in Rome. Can you take us back to the beginning and how your journey became as an artist?
I think I was always meant to be an artist. Um, it seems that when I was just a baby, I got into my mother's oil painting kit when she left me with a babysitter, and I was painting with my hands all over her kitchen floor with the oil paint, but I couldn't get it up, so I hid. And then after that, when I was in grade school, I must have been around 10 years old. I had perfected the art of drawing the outline of a woman's body. I guess you could say nude, but I didn't think of it as in terms of nude. I just thought it was an outline of a woman's body with one line. So I did this perfectly. And I was talking to this little boy in the back of the class next to me, and I said, I could teach you how to do that. And he was very interested. And I did the drawing and I showed him how to do it. And the teacher yelled at me, made me come to the front of the class and said, "What are you doing?" And I showed her the drawing. I was so proud of it, and she was so angry. She sent me to the principal. And the prin-
Wow.
the principal wasn't as angry. He said that as a punishment, that I would have to teach the class how to do the same thing, but not a female form. It had to be like a fruit or an animal, and I chose a tiger. And it was such a successful class. I was only 10 years old that every few weeks another class was invited in for art lessons. So it was meant to be.
That is exciting. And so from 10 years old and already leading, having led your peers on art classes, how did I mean, it's really a hard industry to break into. And so how did you get your start as an artist and really hone your career, which you've built a lifetime creating?
Well, I did art. I went for private lessons after that. And then in high school, I was selling my paintings to, oh my goodness. David, can you take my phone? Uh,
So, Carol, we did a short pause, but we're now back. And in the green room, when we had our short pause, we were talking about sometimes some of the challenges uh, that we have when we're carving out our career. And so I'll get you to start about, how that journey began and maybe just add in some of those challenges that you've experienced along the way.
I guess my first challenge was being sent to the principal's office at 5 years old, but that turned out to be a blessing in disguise. And it seems like with every challenge along the way, and there have been many, many challenges, when I look back at it, I've been doing this about 50 years. The challenges were probably exactly right. I didn't understand that, but I think that when you work through the hard times, you get a lot out of it. And I think it maybe it's what makes my work so sensitive. um, when you look at my art that it's done by a woman, and this is very interesting to me. I don't always sculpt women, but a woman sculpted the finished product. And I think it's the sensitivity that a woman has that she brings to the table, the experiences that you have, the hard times that you have, the good times that you have, all that goes into uh, making the art. And it doesn't matter if it's me or if it's another artist who paints. I think that artists who don't have all these experiences in their life, maybe everything went easy. I don't know. I don't know if they can bring the same sensitivity to their work.
So, what can you
The
pinpoint
challenges.
any particular time where you just said, as we're constantly honing our careers, was there any specific time that you can think back to when you said, I made it? I've now worked all of these years. I now feel that I'm fully in my power and I know the direction that I'm going and it is art that's calling me to move forward and I'm going to create exhibits and be known worldwide. Was there any point that you just had this deep knowing that that was your path?
No, no, not at all. Because you never really you never really get there. And if you think you're going to get there, and if you think, okay, if I'm famous, I'm there, and and now I know what I'm doing, then you're missing the whole point, because it's about the journey, not about being famous. And if you don't enjoy the journey, um, you can't, not everyone gets famous. And let's say I'm famous now. How do I know I'll be famous after I pass? How do I know I'm really famous now? I've never had a show in a New York museum. I have lots of fans, lots of collectors, lots of shows in cities, but there are always goals and always things I want to do. And I have to never lose sight of when I'm sitting there and doing a drawing or doing a sculpture, that's the best time. That's the best part.
So let me ask you this. What have been the most productive times? I mean, when you go through this and, we can only see the road 100 meters ahead of us, right? We know we're going in the right direction. Um, but I'm really curious about what keeps you motivated to keep going and to keep evolving and transforming because your art has transformed over the years.
Very interesting question. What keeps me going? I think that I am so into the art. It's so my personality that if I weren't going to do my art, I wouldn't be me. So I get up every day and I can't wait to get to the studio. I can't wait to create. Creating is a way of being in another world. It's, you don't get hungry, you don't get tired. It's like I'm stoned on art. I love it. And I never want to stop. People say they can't wait to retire. And I say I'm never going to retire.
Well, they always say that when you're doing something that you love, it's really not work. And that period that you're talking about is flow, and that's a passion. When you're into doing your purpose, it isn't work, and time evaporates. You're like a mad
Yeah,
scientist,
it's
almost.
true. Yeah.
You
I would
know,
say the work is when you're on the computer, but when I get off the computer and I go to my painting room or my sculpting room and I'm sculpting, time stands still. It's just the greatest thing. I love it.
so what drew you to the super realism and the human form as your primary subject?
You know, artists are the last to know why they do what they do. I have to tell you, maybe that's why we have curators and art historians and art critics who study historically why we do it. I think for me, my art comes deep within me, and I love the figure. I love people. I like to understand people. I like to meet people and talk to people. I enjoy watching people. I enjoy watching people, their interaction with each other. I enjoy looking at someone blush or someone look fearful or all the different things that happen to people is very interesting to me. And that's what I try to portray, feelings and emotions and situations and things I've gone through, like balance and perseverance. They're the names of my sculptures. They're things that I've tried to do in my own life. So when I look at my life, and I look at a situation, instead of saying, oh my God, I am so unhappy, it's so terrible, um, somebody isn't good to me, that isn't fair, I say, that isn't fair. What do I need to do about it? I need to create a sculpture about fairness and justice and kindness. And I express that through doing the piece. And then I feel good.
So you just talked about the justice, and I know that that was one of the pieces that I saw live and in person, and it was incredible. It was very powerful, not only in size, it was well, like, what is the true size of that? I mean, it's a lot bigger than I am, and I'm 5'8", but how tall, how big is that structure in real life?
I, I don't know, 10 feet? I'd have to check, but it's
10
hard.
feet, like diameter
Well,
too.
yeah, it's a big piece. And it took many years. It took like 25 years to evolve. It started with a sculpture called Balance, and that's the girl sitting on the top of the sphere, and her hands are held in the scales of justice. The symbol is the woman with her hands held out like a scale. So when I first did it, I did a sculpture called Balance because I wanted to have a more balanced life. I was spending like 80% of my time doing my art. I was either doing my art or taking care of my kids. And I wanted, people would say to me, let's get together or let's go to lunch. And I never did that. I said, I can't, I have no time. And then I was thinking, that isn't good. I'm not balanced. I'm not taking the time to do other things, to be with other people. I want to practice balance. So I did the sculpture Balance. And I took the sculpture Balance, and then I made her with her hands like this, and I called it chrysalis. And that's, when you change from one thing to another, the process of the chrysalis. But it still wasn't right until we went through all the things that are happening in the world and all the things that have happened to me, and especially what's happening politically and just all over the world when people are, well, things are not the way we
It's
want.
very divided right now.
It
It's very
is.
divided, and women's rights are being dismantled when we've made so much progress. So it's a very disruptive time, but it's also a time where we as women can rise.
Well, that's what I did. I took Balance and I put her on top of a stainless steel sphere, which it reflects whoever's looking at it. It reflects when it was on Park Avenue, it reflected the city. When it was on the seaport, it reflected the water. When it was in Ohio, it reflects the museum and anybody who looks at it. So that reflects the world. And she's sitting on top of the world, symbolic, the sphere is symbolic of the world, saying, I'm Lady Liberty. this is just. Think about your life and you should be just. So here, the sculpture that I started many, many years ago has evolved to be on top of the spear. And I've done that with a lot of my pieces. People say, how long does it take? I said, it could take me 25 years to do a sculpture. I pretty much, it's not necessarily the physical sculpture, it's what the sculpture says. They're not just swimmers. And that's why I don't want to be named the artist who only does swimmers, because to me, they're stories about people, they're emotional, they're real, they're figurative. And I've done a lot of men too, not just women.
So, I mean, I thought it was beautiful. I mean, when you talk about your story and you craving so much balance in your life, I don't think that I don't think that is unlike any of our listeners today. I mean, I interviewed someone and she's just publishing a book called Balance is Bullshit. Because
I
I
have
honestly,
to read that.
yeah, I think we all need, yeah, to realize that balance is really bullshit. I mean, we try and balance, but we've got, so many different things going on in our life, that careers and kids and families and so many other things that are vying for our attention. But I find it really interesting how that balance evolved to your chrysalis, which evolved to the justice. So, I mean,
Exactly.
25 years of a metamorphosis
Constantly.
of a sculpture now is just, it's powerful. It's really
Now I'm
powerful.
happy with it.
Yeah, it's absolutely stunning,
That's
and I
just
know that I've published some pictures, but for those that are listening, um, the link will have a link to your website, so they can check it out or see some of the pictures that we might tuck into the interview as well. So,
so.
really, congratulations on making that piece or bringing it to life, because that's what it takes. Is it takes a vision, but also somebody to take that vision and make it a reality.
So
When you
Justice is going all over the world. She's going to Azerbaijan, Baku in January for a solo show. She's going to Michigan Avenue in the spring, like I did Park Avenue, and then she's going to Los Angeles, to Beverly Hills, bringing
Oh,
justice all over.
I absolutely love it. Now, is this the same sculpture that I saw in Warren, or do you have
Yeah.
a traveling sculpture?
No, I have to make another one. Right now, I have made two. One is in Palazzo Bonaparte in Rome in my solo show, and the other one is I gave to the museum to start a sculpture park, and that'll be there for 8 years. So I do have to make another one that's going to travel.
Incredible. I'd like to be behind the scenes with you on that, because I'd like to see that whole vision come to life. Did you create it and then ship it to Rome, or how did you get it there? Like, that's a massive piece of art.
It gets shipped. They have passports, but
Wow.
I only make three, so this will be the only other one. So.
Okay, so let's run through the destinations again. So justice will be where, and where?
Okay, Justice started, where did Justice start, David? Venice Biennale. I made it for Venice. It was not in the Biennale, but it was right by the entrance to the Biennale in a place called Paradiso, which is it's a famous cafe, and it also has an art gallery. So it started there, and that one stayed in Europe. That's the same one that's in Palazzo Bonaparte, but I needed one here. So I made one here, and it went to Park Avenue, and then it's in Ohio. But I want that piece to go to Azerbaijan. So the one from Palazzo Bonaparte, this is too complicated.
No,
In
no, this is
Rome,
fascinating.
the one in Europe in Rome will go to Azerbaijan and Baku. The one in then I don't have one for Michigan Avenue or for Beverly Hills, so I am making a third. I haven't started it yet. I only made the decision to make a third one about an hour ago.
This is absolutely incredible. I'm like, I want to see her passport once it's all said and done, because that is something to celebrate. And I am all about celebrating the achievements of women. So that is pretty exciting. Now let's talk about your exhibit in Rome, because in the green room, we talked about it, how this is a very different show from your swimmers, and the swimmers and the like, I could see eyelashes on them. The hair, like they looked like you would be talking to them and you'd be waiting for a response. They're so lifelike. So I find it really interesting how you are mixing the mediums and making them so real like. But tell us about the exhibit in Rome that you're doing. I mean, the one that's on right now. I mean, I just missed it.
Oh, that's too bad. Um, I'm very proud of it. It's curated by a very famous curator, Demetrio Paparoni, who also was the art historian and curator who wrote my new book called by Rizzoli. And that's just out, and I'm very proud of that. So he curated the show. He came to New York and he said, "Look at all these drawings." I said, "Drawings? Oh my God, I did them when I was 16, 17, 18." He says, "Oh, these drawings are fabulous. We have to frame them and put them in the show." And then he looked at my illustrations, and I mean, a lot of them were in bad shape. I had to do a restoration myself and pretty quickly. And he said, "That should be in the show." And then I had boxes and boxes of heads, hands, and feet, because every time I would make a sculpture, I would do I would do a mold from a head, hands, and feet, and then put it together to make a sculpture. So he said, "Look at all these castings. Um, would you like to put them all in a room and display them?" And I came up with this idea that I built a like, it's not really shelves, it's kind of like I had an architect help me, and I built an interactive wall with shelves. It's in the center of the room, and it's mirrored, and it's interesting. I wanted the room to have mirrors on the ceiling, the walls, and the floor. So when you walk in, you would see yourself. And if you had a head in your hand, you'd see like 1,000 heads, like an infinity room. So I put all these heads, hands, and feet. I installed them, and I did it then and there, like 2 days before the show opened. It wasn't like in advance. I knew what I was doing. I was a little nervous. I wanted it to be fantastic. So I moved them around, and I would put hands like on the top of a shelf hanging down and feet going up. And I did this installation, and it was really cool. You walk in, I mean, children love it, adults love it, and you can say, "Oh, that's the face of Catalina. That's the face of Serena." And here they're all kind of, they're not painted, they're not finished, they're not, we call it chased in the business, where if you have a line here or something when you do the casting, and I smooth it for a sculpture, they're not smoothed out. They're just exactly as they were, and in different colors, in white and gray with primer. And they're a display. They're an interactive display that you partake in, and I love it. This room of mirrors. I'm looking for a place to send it when the show comes down, because I'm really excited. And then also, it has my swimmers, of course, the drawings, the swimmers, the interactive room. But Demetrio said, "Well, what are you working on now?" when he came to my studio. And I said, I'm working on these wall hangings. I used to do these erotic pieces, these sensual pieces, and now they're in a show in the Museum of Sex, which I have in New York City. And I have these early pieces from the 70s. So some of them are in the show in Bonaparte, but I took one of them, the male back, and I did a tattoo on it. And Demetrio said, "That is amazing tattoos. Have you done any others?" So now I'm doing backs of people that hang on the wall with tattoos. And I'm very excited. The catalog, they put that on the cover. So my next show will be with tattoos.
Incredible. And
It
there's so
gives,
many messages
yeah,
on
that's
tattoos,
it.
of course, because that's another
Exactly.
form of storytelling. That's
Well,
very
then,
personal.
yeah, exactly. So you take the story I tell, plus the story that the model told, you put it all together, and it's an added dimension, which I really like. And I'm back to not doing heads. So the pieces are are like the fragmented body parts that hang on the wall. So I'm almost going full circle. So, if you think when you say to me, you made it, you're famous, well, to me, it's not about making it, it's about working and coming up with things that I believe in and that I want to express. So I mean, I don't want any tattoos on me, but I like the tattoos. I study the tattoos on other people, and it makes you wonder, like, why did they get that tattoo? What does that mean? Is that their child's picture? Is that a lover's picture? So it's very interesting.
That was my question. Carol, do you have any tattoos?
No.
I don't have any tattoos either, but I'm always curious about the stories of people that do because every tattoo has a story. So exciting about your exhibit, which, really is a lifetime of art
A
from
lifetime.
16 on the past 50 years. So that's simply incredible. Now, I know that, and I want to get back to a little bit about some of your themes and your legacy, but much of your work celebrates the female form. And not only is it beautiful, but it's also a vessel of history and resilience and, of course, empowerment. So, Carol, and I'm a woman of inspiration and we celebrate the achievements of women, but why, Carol, is celebrating women so important to you?
Um, Women have to support each other and they have to celebrate each other. Women have always been historically thought of as not as important as men. In my own family, my mother thought a man was more important than a woman. I mean, people, and we're going backwards a little bit because of what's going on in politics. And I belong to the Women's Forum. Most people don't know that. And the International Women's Forum is in 53 countries, and it's women who are too busy to belong to a group. And you have to be invited. And it's women who make a difference, something like your podcast. And I joined because when I wanted to have more balance in my life, I decided everybody I know is either an artist or a mother. I want to be part of an organization where I meet women who sit on the Supreme Court or women who are governors or Hillary Clinton is a colleague. So Eleanor Guggenheim, who had the first seat on the stock exchange, started this um, group of a couple of women in New York who said, we're not going to try to be like a man or look up to a man. We're going to support each other. And to be a member, you have to take a vow that if another woman who is a colleague calls you, you will at least take her call or listen to her. It's a good old girls club because that's what women need. So I always am a champion for women. I've met the greatest women that I could ever imagine. I appreciate things that you're doing. I think that it's really important stuff. I love doing sculptures of women, like the woman on Justice. I also, like I told you, I also do sculptures of men, but and it's interesting the names of the sculptures of the men because now that we're talking about it, I'm thinking about what I've named my male sculptures, and I've handled it very differently.
So now you have me curious.
Yeah. Well, I did a sculpture of a man, and I called it the Thinker, and it's not like Rodin. So, in a way, when you maybe this is psychological that I didn't even realize till we were having this wonderful podcast. But if a man is thinking, let him think about things, let him think about the situation. And then I did my most famous sculpture is called the Golden Mean, and it's a man on his hands. And he's in a C curve. And I was inspired by Greg Louganis, who took gold, and I met him in Florida when I had a show at the Swimming Hall of Fame and the Olympians. He was an Olympian, and the drive to persevere, the drive to succeed, how beautiful the body can be. And I did this sculpture and I named it the Golden Mean because if you lean too far one way, you fall over too far the other way. And it's once again balance. Balance is a really important thing in my life. So when I made this man who how to decide how to lean so it didn't fall over. It's interesting, it was a male sculpture. So those
So
are
while
two.
we're on the topic of men, and we had a little bit of a conversation in the green room, of course, um, our allies and what we like to call them as our support hers are really important to have them part of that conversation. We can't be pushing the envelope and having women in the conversation without saying, what is their responsibility, what is their role. So, Carole, who have been some of those support hers in your world, and why is it so important to bring men to the conversation to champion women?
A man with confidence will champion women, just like a woman with confidence will champion men. Um, I mean, the world is made up of men and women, and we do have to support each other. But women, more than ever, have to support other women because um, of the challenges women face. I've had shows that have closed because um, they weren't acceptable. And I often wonder, if I was a man, would it have been acceptable? And I've had galleries tell me that they don't want to show my work because women get married, they have children, they wouldn't want to invest in me. And had I been a male years ago, um, they would have showed my work. And in the back of my mind, I always wondered, if I changed my name to a man's name, or you didn't know if I was a woman, would I go further? And just recently in my Rizzoli book, it's called Feuerman, not Carole A. Feuerman, not Carole Jean Feuerman, just Feuerman. So it's not feminine or masculine, but my work is inside, but it's androgynous, So I think we have to um, support other women because that's what I love to do. But we also have to mostly be ourselves, and we have to live with ourselves. So certainly we have to do what we feel is right. And it says a lot about a person.
And I love it'd be interesting to see what the take is with just going with one last name. So it's, you don't know whether it's a man or a woman until you open up the contents. And then just see your last name
Yeah, I have to send
presented.
you a book.
Yes, please. I would love one of your
Yeah.
books. That would be amazing. Let's celebrate that. I want to talk a little bit about just that. I mean, a woman and your legacy, and it has been hard for women to carve their voice in art, and it's only because of women like yourself and like the women that I've met, even in Warren, Ohio. My goodness, the art director, Caitlin, was
Yeah.
really, really wanting to showcase female art. And of course, even Stephen, Rockefeller, he's had 500 essays of women. So drawing those like-minded people together and then showcasing and putting the exhibit together was really fascinating to see. But there's lots of hands part of that pushing that forward. So what is that legacy, Carole? And how are you hoping to bring more women into art to be recognized?
Okay, so one of the things that I want to mention about the show in Ohio is how it started. I have a foundation, and my foundation is called the Feuerman Sculpture Foundation. And my mission is to help struggling artists who can't get a gallery, who are underrepresented, who maybe their studio burnt down or whatever, maybe they need a college grant. I give grants and I help women and men and all types of artists, not just sculptors, get exhibited. So Caitlin and I, because I had a solo show, we became friends, and I put her on the board of my foundation. And I said to her, Caitlin, with COVID and everything, I have not done a show of selected artists in many years, and I want to do a show. Would you show, um, can we partner and do a show at your museum? Because this would be so great. These artists some of them have never shown in a gallery, or certainly not in a museum, and this would give them a boost. People would see it, like Rockefeller and all these people. So I said, I want the name of the show to be the Zodiac, the, the, uh, the powers of the creative, because I'm an astrologer and I love I love all that. I love the zodiac. So that's the theme. And that's how it started. Caitlin so graciously and wonderfully and tirelessly worked hard with me to put this show together. And one of the artists, her name is Mara Safara, knew Rockefeller, and I spoke with him and invited him to be in the show. And so it was a foundation show. And then Rockefeller did his own show, and then Mara did a solo show. But basically, it all grew out of the foundation doing the show, which is going to be up through, I think, February of 2027. And there are men, women, painters, sculptors, all sorts of artists that need help. I'm giving a grant away today who are best in the show. Um, this artist who I think is wonderful, you've seen his work, and I'm not going to say who, but one of the artists had a disaster. His studio burnt down and he needs a new studio. And I love his work, and he's going to be getting a grant for this show. So that's
Beautiful.
that's how I want to inspire. I want to inspire artists who um, to not give up, that there'll be a person like me or maybe other people along the way they might run into who could help them or give them a pat on the back, and they should do what they love, because I mean that's what it's about. You don't regret doing what you love. Even if you can't afford it, you could have like other jobs and spend a little time doing your art. Like my daughter's in the show, and she just I said to her, why don't you were an art major in college. Now you're a mother. Why don't you do some paintings, and we'll see if they're good enough. I'll put them in the show. So she's in the show, as well as accomplished artists that are in the show.
Beautiful. Well, I love the background in the story, and also a shout out to Mara because she's got some really incredible sculptures that she's was showing that I look forward to having her on the podcast as well. It was such a like I didn't know what to expect, to be honest with you, when I was in Warren. I had no idea what to expect. But I have to tell you that the trip into Warren, Ohio it was memorable. 3 days. Like you need a while to go through and absorb everything because it's fabulous. So, congratulations and for all that you do for inspiring the next generation of artists and really, kind of taking the bull by the horns and getting it done because that's what it takes. It takes somebody with an idea and somebody with the ability to push it forward.
Just do it.
Just do it. I am a woman of inspiration. Don't wait for opportunities. We create them, Carol.
Create them.
So that is my mantra for sure. So we're coming to a little bit of a wrap up here. And, I want to make sure that first of all, this is the Woman of Inspiration podcast. I would love to know um, who are those women that you aspire or had looked up to along your journey?
That is a loaded question.
Did you have any role models or did you, because they're,
Women have been written out of art history. They really, I was asked to work on a book of of a woman author who wanted to know, which asked me the same question, and I searched and searched for the women who've made a difference, and there are a couple, but basically, we've been written out, and I don't want that to continue, and it's even harder now with what's going on. So who did I look up to? I looked up to like Sandra Day O'Connor. I looked up to Hillary Clinton, because when I was in the White House and she collects my work, I said to her, you're going through such a hard time. How do you handle it? And she said to me, it's harder to handle a teenager like Chelsea than it is to handle anything else. And I related to that, being a mother, raising my children alone as a single parent. It was really hard. And she was telling me from her heart, what was hard for her. So I look up to women who tell the truth, who speak from their heart, because we all have a lot in common, but a lot of women, they don't say, they don't talk about these things. They may say, I did this, 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 and this, and they don't say, well, I had, like in my case, I have a lot of mental illness in my family. I had a lot of, my first husband wouldn't let me do my art. My parents wouldn't let me do my art. I had to pay my own college education by supporting myself. And that's how, when I look back, that's how I made it. I made it because I had to pay my for college. I had to sell my work, or I wouldn't have money to pay for my tuition. So some of the hardest things we go through are what shape us. But going back to women leaders, I think it's more like women leaders in every field. There are a lot of great male artists, though, I have to say.
Well, I agree with you on all counts. I mean, as a single mom myself, I mean, we would have a whole other conversation,
Yeah, we
Carol.
should do
I'm
that. We
sure
should.
lots of conversations in that angle because it's true. Resilience is one of those things that, I mean, you can't buy. They are given to you and you have to figure it out. And it's survival, right?
Yes,
And
sink or
a lot
swim.
of it is about surviving.
It's all about survival. That's why I named my first sculpture Survival of Serena. I saw women on tubes and floats who were risking their life coming from Cuba to Key West in the 80s. And I had to do a survival sculpture, but many of them are survival. I'm a survivor. I'm a cancer survivor. I'm a survivor of a marriage. I'm a survivor of my career, which I couldn't get a gallery to show me in the beginning. All those are survival things, but survivor, it makes you stronger, like you have your choice. You could either do nothing, like sink, or swim, and I chose to swim.
Well, I'm a swimmer as well, and the glass is always full, and overflowing. But that's a beautiful way to wrap that up. Thank you so much for sharing. It's been a pleasure having you on the Woman of Inspiration podcast, and it wouldn't be a Woman of Inspiration podcast without asking you what your definition of a woman of inspiration is, Carol.
A woman of inspiration is somebody who does something with their life in whatever way it is. You could, in whatever way they can, somebody who makes a difference, somebody who just doesn't exist because they married a rich husband or a famous husband, but they make sure that they find something they do to inspire other women, to be a role model, to be someone other people can look up to.
Beautiful. Well, Carol, I would like to say thank you so much for spending this time with me and to the listeners that are listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it widely. It's not too late. So put Rome on your calendar and another excuse to get over the pond to go see Carol's exhibit to experience the voice of body at Palazzo Bonaparte in Rome until September 25th, just to experience Carol's artwork. And then watch for the news coming, just released today, about the passport for Justice as she travels across North America. So thank you, Carol. Any last words for our listeners today?
I just want the listeners to make sure they go to my foundation site to subscribe to being in shows that I'm going to have in the future, and let me uplift them. Let me help them if they need my help.
Beautiful. What a great call to action. And thank you so much for joining us today on the Women of Inspiration podcast. Your insights and your vision today were truly inspiring. So thank you so much, Carol.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.